people, and if you're watching live, checking us out on YouTube, or listening on your favorite podcast provider, you are most definitely my people. Welcome to another episode of Botched, and Chair Shots. I am your host, a chef by trade and a mark by choice. I am the Will Gray, and joining me today is Florida-based independent wrestling superstar, the reigning and defending Florida Brass Knuckles champion. He is Cole Bohannon. Cole, thanks for coming on and chatting about some wrestling, brother. How are you?
I appreciate you having me on here, man. You have a beautiful evening. It's a beautiful Tuesday night. It's actually the weather's perfect. Just enjoying my day.
It's always a plus, man. It's been real nice here in Tennessee. It's nice and temperate. It's not too hot yet, not too cold. Tennessee's only really nice about 4 months out of the year. Then everything dies off and gets gray anyways. So it's a little bit weird. So, man, one of my favorite things to do when I start these, I always start them kind of the same way, and it's kind of like an origin story. We talk about, first, we always start with early exposure. I grew up late 80s, early 90s, the tail end of the NWA territories, early WCW days, in that, that Memphis, Jerry Lawler, Jeff Jarrett territory. What did you grow up watching? What's your early exposure when you first started watching wrestling?
My first memory of pro wrestling was February 7th or 8th of 1997. It was a shotgun Saturday night. I was sitting on the couch with my dad with a bowl of Oreos and a glass of milk. And I remember watching Hunter Hearst Helmsley and Undertaker fighting in a mall going up an escalator. And I was hooked from there. That's honestly my earliest memory. And I remember after that was over, ECW was on, and then I was hooked even harder as a kid in 1997, being 7 years old. But no, I grew up with the Attitude Era. My friends like to say that I was raised by the WWE, not my parents, because my life was consumed with pro wrestling growing up to the point of it was everything. It consumed my life, my clothes, my posters on my wall. Using my imagination outside, having the mattress outside of my balcony in front of my house, doing stuff that like 9 and 10-year-olds probably shouldn't be doing. It consumed my life, and I've been a fan ever since.
So I always like to ask this question because I feel like every adult male at some point in his life pretended to be a wrestler on his trampoline. Did you ever do backyard wrestling?
Yeah, man, I had a little like single or twin mattress out in my yard at the time when my parents got me a new mattress. That was my wrestling ring. I had the I don't know what the hell they were called, but they were the the stuffed wrestler guys that like when you punched them in the head, they would make sounds. They were like, I can't remember what they were called. They still make those today. I had a bunch of those, and I could just use my imagination being an only child. And then, of course, having friends over and having our own little wrestling matches. It was a great time to be a kid. It was a great time to be a wrestling fan because you could use your imagination and you could be on any stage you wanted to be, pretend to be whoever you wanted to be. And I was 100% that kid. To a point that it was almost embarrassing. So yeah, I was definitely that kid.
So as you grew up and you were like, okay, this is something I'm going to do for a living. What was the process like for you getting into your training, deciding on a school, deciding not to go to a school? This is, as I've found out as I've done these, this is one of those unique aspects of the business that every single wrestler did a little bit different, was when they decided what that part of their career was going to be like. So what was that like for you going into the training process?
It wasn't planned whatsoever. I started very late. I started at the age of 30. It was one of those things where I've talked about it. I've wanted to do it. My cousin Blaine Rage, he's a 23-year veteran, something like that, 23, 25-year veteran, told me about a school here in Jacksonville. And then he told me about it, and I was like, all right, well, I want to be a manager. I've started late. I know I can speak. I can be pretty diverse on a microphone. And he's just like, man, shut up, get in the ring, be a worker. Shut up with this nonsense of a manager. And enough of the harassing from him, I did so here in Jacksonville, and found a little school here that helps you learn the basics, and that's exactly what I did for a couple of years.
So you said yourself you started, quote unquote, late. I don't personally like the way that sounds. You know, you had great people come in. Diamond Dallas Page started in his 30s. You know, like so when I hear that, I'm like, man, I don't really think that's that late. What was it like for you breaking into the business though at that point? Because you were coming up in training. I mean, there were guys 18, 19, 20 years old, and here you are at 30 breaking into the business now. What was that like, kind of going head on with it, knowing that you were going against guys that were, 5, 10 years younger?
It hurt. That's how it went. Training my body to do things that I haven't done since either a preteen or adolescent teen years. Training myself to do a flip again from a standing point. I haven't done that since middle school. Um, Countless rib injuries doing so by landing on my ribs and not being able to just do that. Just training my body to do the things that it used to do that I haven't had a reason to do voluntarily in over a decade. So it was a little bit of an obstacle. The class that I say class, but a few of us started together. One thing that really I was really proud of myself was I saw many guys drop out that were much younger than me that just couldn't take it. Either they were getting blown up, they couldn't take the physical abuse, they didn't have the cardio for it. And granted, I'm not in the best shape of my life, but I had the heart to keep going no matter how hard it hurt or how hard it was or how much it hurt. Just keep going to the point where early in my training, I had a rib injury. I had cartilage just was shot. And I had to take a few weeks off of training to just sit there and watch until my body built that callus. So it was definitely, there was a couple barriers there, but I was able to overcome them and keep trucking.
This has become one of my favorite questions I ask because I I like to see it as people have progressed through their stories and as their careers have gone. If you had a chance to go back now, day one, night one, and talk to little rookie Cole right before his first match, what advice would you give that guy today?
Oof. I guess the advice would be that honestly that's a rough one. Probably advice would be get on the treadmill a hell of a lot sooner than I did. Start getting into cardio now. I feel like I'd be leaps and bounds from where I am now if I started focusing on my cardio a little bit quicker. Let's face it, I'm 6 foot, 235 pounds. As my dad would say, I'm built like a crap. I'm assuming this is PG-13. A
I've
poop
got the
brick
E
house.
for a reason. You can say whatever the hell you want, Bubba.
Yeah, a shit brick house. He used to say that I was built. 'Cause I'm a stocky guy, but I'm not. I'm not the guy with the six pack that can run a mile in 4 minutes. I'm not that guy, nor I don't think I ever will be, and I'm okay with that. And I would have told myself though, get in the damn gym, hit that treadmill a heck of a lot quicker and faster. I think that would have helped out quite a bit, but I'm having fun.
Let's kind of start diving into what you got going on these days. The big news, obviously. I was lucky enough. You and I scheduled this ahead of time, and then the Busted Open stuff dropped. So I was like, perfect timing. I like it when a plan comes together. Let's jump right into it, man. What was that experience like, getting to go on Busted Open, being featured as their indie spotlight? Let's talk about that day of. What was going on?
So 15 minutes of fame. I felt super honored because I've been a fan of the show for 5 years, and everything I said on there was the truth. If it wasn't for that show, I wouldn't be a pro wrestler. If it wasn't for Busted Open, I would not be where I'm at now, because finding Busted Open helped me find my love for pro wrestling again. I was a very casual watcher viewer of pro wrestling during that time. We're just, around that PG era, and it just wasn't fun being an adult watching pro wrestling as it was as a kid. I'd watch WrestleMania and the big shows and casually turn on Raw, but it wasn't my thing. So getting on there, speaking to Dave, hearing Dave tell me that he was proud of me, that was huge. Just because Dave is somebody that I've looked up towards. Dave LaGreca is Dave LaGreca. He is a fan that turned pro wrestling into his business and doesn't have to take a single bump. But he's having so much fun doing it, and he made his dream come true. Then, of course, tossing ideas back and forth with Thunder Rosa. Obviously, that's an honor. It's Thunder Rosa. Busted Open helped her get her name out as well. So being in the same shoes that she was, and also finding out that some of the same experiences that I had at my school aren't really as rare, and others have been through some of the same negative experiences I have, including her. and it was very special. And being the inaugural Indie Spotlight guest was just awesome. And I'm happy to do that. I'm so damn grateful to be able to get on there because it's the biggest wrestling show in the world, not just the country, the world. And it was truly remarkable. I still go back and watch it. I screen recorded it on my computer just so I can live in that moment again. And it's going to be hard to top that.
You said it then, and you've been a buddy of mine putting you over, Vanessa and Standing.
Yes.
Love those guys. I saw you on their show, and I was like, "There's no way I'm gonna have to get this guy on here." I was like, I do a very real interview. I like to ask real questions. This isn't who's your favorite worker. You know what I mean? Like that's not what this is about. So when I saw you, I was like, I've got to get this guy on the show. You said I'm not PG. And you said it right there, and you said you're very real. Like, what does that mean to you? Like, to not be PG, and this isn't about, if you say, the F word or shit every now and then, like, what does that mean for you to be real as Cole Bohannon?
I'm not a politically correct person. I've never have been in my life. It's why, as a sales associate that I was before venturing down here and before being a business owner, I peaked as a sales associate because the older I got, the less crap I gave about what society really thought of me. And I come from a background of my father was the type to say his mind, and he was very bluntly honest. And if you didn't like it, you tough shit. He was not one to ask, "Do I look fat in this dress?" And I'm kind of that same way, man. Like, I'm not the type to kiss ass to get ahead. I'm not the type to tell you what you want to hear. I can be professional, but when you catch me in the ring, you catch me in the back, you catch me at the grocery store, I'm the same person. That's why I hate when people ask, what's your gimmick, or who are you away from the ring? Like, they try to compare who I am when the red light's on to who I am when the red light's off. And you can ask anybody that knows me personally. I'm the same person. The only difference when the light is on is people think sometimes I'm being an asshole and it's just a gimmick. And they're like, "Man, you're really good at that." Even being a baby face, they're like, "Man, you could tell you have an edge to you." I love that character. This isn't a character. Like,
that's just me.
It's literally just me. If anything, it's me turned up to 11, because I can't tell you what I think of you at the line in Winn-Dixie, but I can sure the hell tell you that in the middle of the ring, as whatever role I'm needing to play for that promotion that I'm needing to be. That's what it really means to me. Not being PC or PG. I'm just me. I'm not the type to change who I am just to fit society. This has worked so far in my life. I've had quite some success inside and outside of the ring, and I'm going to continue being me until it no longer works.
You said right there that you'll turn stuff up to 11. One of my favorite quotes I ever got was from a trainer who said that when he talks to his students, he's pretty much said what you did. It's not about a gimmick. It's about finding yourself and turning bits of you up to 11 to find success in the ring. So you're just echoing the things that I've heard in the past. But simply put, other than being a completely awesome asshole, like, what else are you turning up to 11?
My emotion. Shout out, by the way, to Standing Streamer and Vanessa on putting you over, because they were the first ones to give me an opportunity to start showing that emotion and showing my personality to the world. And I'm glad I'm able to do that. I'm the type to wear my emotion on my sleeve. And in the business world today, you can't do that because of the Karens out there. You can't do that. Where I can in the ring, I can get so emotional on the microphone, I get tears in my eyes. And I've had that happen before because everything I say is from the heart. I hate having to bite my tongue. I hate having to reword things to appease others. I don't have to do that in pro wrestling. I can truly be me, and I can turn that emotion up, and I can let you know exactly how I feel in my words, in my way, without having to figure out how to get it over in a way that sounds right to the masses. I say it in my way, so I definitely turn my emotion up to 11. So you know that what I'm saying, I mean.
One of the things I love most about this job is when I talk to you guys and I talk to independent workers. I'll get on YouTube. I'll start finding film, and one of the things I'll do is I'll go through and I'll watch. One thing about you for sure, 1,000%, man. You're not shy on the mic at all. You're not afraid to talk. Are you a big film guy? Do you watch film from, even if it's just watching old promos or seeing guys cut promos? Are you a film kind of guy? Are you going to watch old wrestling? Do you watch current wrestling to stay up to date? Like, how are you, working on that side of the game?
I came from an old school trainer where I watched when I started a lot of wrestling from the 80s. Obviously, a lot of wrestling from the 90s. But when it comes to like studying it to, okay, I need to do this and that, that's never really been my thing. I feel like everybody does something differently. You might be trained to do it one way, but the pros are doing it another. But your trainer's showing you the pros are doing it wrong because now they've developed bad habits over the years. And you hear that in all different manners and different situations where obviously anytime I'm watching stars on my TV, it's pen and paper mentally. Watching Charlotte Flair and Rhea Ripley was that was a clinic. That was a seminar.
Agreed.
Watching
100%.
watching the storytelling, any storytelling that's happened with any of the feuds that Cody Rhodes has had, minus Anthony Ogogo, that is the same thing. It's
Whoa. Sorry, guys.
Learn from that. And I think that's the hardest part is the psychology of pro wrestling. And that's when it comes to moves and stuff like that, or the way that interviews are done, obviously, you got the classics like Dusty and Flair that anybody is taking notes on, but I don't watch it for that reason. But when it comes to psychology, absolutely.
So you just, I like it. Having a guest that can give me my segues and feed it to me is super easy. I love it. Good guest means it's an easy night on the job for me. You just brought some guys up, from Dusty to Gordon. That Florida history, man, is rich. That territory was one of the biggest when you went through JCP. Looking at independent wrestling now, though, what's the indie scene like in Florida?
Man, it's white hot. Like chlamydia piss burning hot. It is
Perfect
hot
analogy.
Here. It is hot here in Florida. From any side, from the Panhandle, which is my home away from home, CWF, Coastal Wrestling Federation, probably the best that Panhandle has seen in a very long time, to over here on the East Coast. You have USWA, United States Wrestling Alliance, which I debut with this Saturday, April 22nd, right here in Jacksonville. You go down the coast, down to Boca Raton and Miami, where you got Coastal Championship Wrestling, CCW. You go over to the West Coast, to Tampa, where you have Tampa Bay Pro. You have WWM Proving Ground. You got Thunder Pro Wrestling. Like, Ocala has a scene. St. Pete has a scene. Doesn't matter where the hell you are. In Florida, it is hot. And anybody that's a younger wrestler trying to get out there, the best thing I can say is if you're in Florida or any state, start reaching out to these promotions, start showing up, shaking hands, putting up some rings, showing that you want this. And that's exactly how I got into this, was doing that and reaching out to these promotions. So Florida is just a hotbed of pro wrestling. I know there was I said in Busted Open, there was a guy that called up and he's like, only place I've heard of in Florida is ALW. Atomic it's an awesome place. They are a place where you want to see 80% guys that and 20% indie guys. Perfect place to go. But it's just a hotbed for pro wrestling, the state is.
Do you think it's still important if you want to be a wrestler sometimes just to show up and be like, hey, I'm here to learn. Let me help you set up the ring. I'll sweep your floors. Do you think there's still somewhere for that in pro wrestling, son?
That's as important as thanking anybody for what they've done in the business. It is extremely important to do so. Because for one, it shows commitment. It shows that you're willing to pay your dues, as you're willing to help that promotion. Because let's face it, all of us get into the ring of any promotion, they're helping us. So it's a two-way street. This is a business. So absolutely. I can't tell you how many times, and Thunder Rosa asked me about it, that I go to promotions just to shake hands, put up rings, and wasn't booked. I did that enough times to show that this kid wants it, and then eventually getting booked. And I think that's extremely important. And I see a lot of my peers doing it as well, and I commend them for that.
Um, looking at Florida as a whole, you talked about some of the great promotions that came through. You've got guys from Bryce Maddox to Miles Blackwell, Cole Bohannon. There's tons of talent in the state of Florida right now. How are you standing apart from the crowd when you see so many talented guys coming out of the territory? It's very reminiscent of when Dusty and Rick and all these guys were down there. It's just kind of a resurgence of that now. So what are you doing to kind of make yourself stand out in like such a busy hot market?
I'm not kissing ass at one promotion to get over, and sticking with that one promotion and giving that promoter a reach around so I can stay on his card and only staying with that promotion. I noticed you mentioned a couple roster names from that promotion, so I don't do that. I work at every single promotion around here. There's certain promotions out here that they only let you work for them and them only. And that's not how you get your name out here, no matter what brainwashing they try to do. Just like, again, Thunder Rosa said, some of these promotions try to brainwash you into, just sticking with them. And some of these guys believe that. Some of them do it because they don't have the same dreams, and that's cool. You just want to be an independent pro wrestler. The next level isn't the goal. Follow your dream. But that's not my dream. My dream is to get as far as I can. A lot of people doubt it just because of my age or my size. They're like, yep, Cole's full of shit. I've proven it. I've gotten booked on not only, shows like Busted Open, but I've been booked on bigger independent shows as well. Not to the point of AEW Dark, not to the point of an NXT. I'm not even ready for that yet, and I have no problem admitting that. Some guys, like a Bryce Maddox, is just naturally athletic. The guy's a monster, hell of a guy, great dude. He has it. He's a D1 athlete. Some of us don't just aren't built like that guy, and it takes us a little longer. But the goal is still the same. So that's the way I make myself different from everybody else. You're not just going to find me at one promotion or two promotions feeding into the bullshit. I'm all over this state, from the Panhandle down to Boca Raton and then some. And that's what I'm going to continue to do.
One of my things that I took away when I listened to your interview with Standing and Vanessa on Putting You Over, was you said that there was kind of a change in your career.
Yep.
You kind of went from, not that it was a disrespectful change, you went from the smiley, very yes sir, shaking hands Cole to being the Cole that we have now. Can you speak a little bit as to what made that change happen and what led to you becoming the person you are today in pro wrestling?
Having your trainer / promoter tell you that you can't go to a signing because you don't look like a pro wrestler, and then being told that I was basically there as a squash guy because I wasn't following his rhetoric and that he didn't see anything in me. That will turn that smile upside down real quick and want you to put the proverbial Buddha in somebody's ass to prove them wrong. And that's what I did. I did it I didn't do it in the most professional way because, again, I wear my emotions on my sleeve. I'm the type to let you know that I'm not happy with it, and I can be vindictive. It's not a positive trait of mine, but it's a trait. We all have our flaws, and when you put me down like that, and you tell me these kind of things because I'm not following your rhetoric, and you tell me that I don't look like a pro wrestler or I don't have what it takes, I'm going to go out there and prove you wrong because that's what I've done my entire life. And that's where the smiling and shaking hands quit. And that's where I got a little bit more of an edge. And that's what drives me every single weekend. USWA is the biggest, most known independent wrestling company in Jacksonville, Florida. The fact that the promoter said, Cole, I would love to have you on this show, it meant so much to me to do so. And then having the opportunity to work for one of the best tag teams that are in the state of, hell, probably in the Southeast, in the Russell Twins. They are students of the Pope. I work with them. I share a locker room with them at CWF. I see what they can do. And for somebody like that to have the confidence in myself to do a match with them, it completely proves everything wrong that was once told to me. But back to your question, that's the moment when I got even more edgier than I ever was, when I was told that I don't look like a pro wrestler. I just don't have what it takes. Now, more people know who Cole Bohannon is. than half the people in that locker room, or probably 95%.
That was a perfect answer. I didn't really know. I didn't have a plan for an answer for that question, but like hearing you explain it, it's like, hell yeah, that's why I wanted to ask that question. Like I wrote it down and I was like, okay, let's. And then you don't really have an expectation sometimes. It's just like,
No, and let me say this as well. I say a lot of negative from my roots in pro wrestling. There were some positives. I learned how to do things the correct way, the safe way. My trainer, being as old school as he is, the old school way, from what I'm learning, is better than the new school way, or some things are done more lazy, like an arm drag. I see a very lazy way of doing certain things. I was trained to do it the proper way. So I don't want to have it come out here as I'm just completely bitter. I think I'll always be bitter. But I did gain what I needed to gain. It was my time to go and make my name.
like I said, I knew you weren't going to pull any punches. I knew this would be a good fit for the style of interview I do. It would be a hit. Styles make fights. Big Southern wrestling guy. Stylistically, atypical is not the right word. You blend a lot of styles. You're not just a technician in the ring. You're not really like a strong style guy. You're not just to get in there and just kill somebody with your hands and your feet, brawler per se. But for somebody who's never seen Cole Bohannon work, how do you describe your style in the ring?
I mix it up. I try to make myself unpredictable. You see a guy my size, you don't expect to see me do what I call like my honor roll, where I'm doing a full roll in the ring, popping up, hitting somebody with a splash or a spear in the corner. You don't expect to see me go up to the second rope and do a flying clothesline. But at the same time, this is a fight. I'm going to punch you in your mouth. That's where the brawler side comes to it. And then there is a technical side. I do have a submission side that I've learned throughout this last year of, excuse me, being able to use submissions and holds and learning different holds, watching a heck of a lot of tape from back in the day. Things that maybe you don't see. I used to do like this one-legged Boston crab and stuff like that. But I'm now more working into different things that you don't always see. So I try to give it a mixture. I like to be unpredictable, as well as I like it to make sense. There's no reason for a guy like myself to overdo it, to be jumping off the top rope, doing crazy stuff, or, suicide dives. There's no need for somebody like me doing things like that, so I don't. I try to make sure that everything that I do not only gets the job done in the ring, but it also makes sense to not only the crowd, but myself. Because again, I'm not trying to, leapfrog out of the ring like we see some of these really, really talented, quicker, faster guys. It's just not me. Usually my goal in the ring when I'm working with a fast guy, kind of like I'm going to have here with the Russell twins, is to slow them down. And that's the goal this Saturday as well.
Having the ability to adjust on the fly, how do you go? Is that just something you get from reps, just being in the ring over and over again and being able to be adaptable from opponent to opponent to opponent?
Yeah, for sure. You learn a lot. Every time I'm in the ring, I learn something. I'm learning it from the crowd. I'm learning it from myself. I'm learning it from my opponent. I'm learning things I didn't know I could do, doing things that I didn't think I was capable of, and realizing that I can. Like, I was never a leapfrog guy. Then learning, holy shit, I can leapfrog. Just doing stuff like that. So I guess that's just how you do on the fly. I do get trainings here and there whenever I can. There is a smaller independent company here that's called DCCW that has a really good training program that they do for a lot of younger kids here. I'll pop in there, help the kids that are just starting out, do the basics, and also learning stuff myself. And that's a great place to try different things, but a lot of it's on the fly.
It's pro wrestling. One of the things that's most important about it is getting that strap, getting the belt, winning a title. If, like I said, we keep going back, man, I'm an old head. I'm going to bring up the territories every chance I get. But those territory titles they were prestigious as hell. Winning a territory title, especially one in Florida, was a big deal. You're the Florida Brass Knuckles champion. What was it like getting the call? They were like, Cole, you're the guy. We're going to put the strap on you, put the rocket on your back, and push you. What was it like getting the call?
Um, it was humbling because I had a friend of mine who's also an announcer here in Jacksonville, Donnie Harris Jr., a wonderful announcer. Tell me, by the time I left my school was in May of 22, and by like July, he goes, "Man, one of these companies is going to put a belt on you," because I was just working my tail off, and by the end of July, it happened. So that was really really cool to hear. It was very appreciative, very humbling. Um, and I try to do my best to represent the company because it's a traveling title. It's a title that goes everywhere with me. It goes all these different promotions. And when I request, hey, I want to defend this title tonight. It's either approved or denied. Depends what they have planned for me at that night. But it's fun. I'll tell you that. Right now, I'm actually chasing the Breakout Championship at CWF. Cleveland Bigs currently has it. We've had a feud going for a while. We've gone tit for tat on a lot of different things. Cleveland's a hell of a pro wrestler as well. That's really what I'm focused on right now. It's great being the Brass Knuckles champion. I want that Breakout Championship though.
When you have a chance to work with Cleveland and you're working a story like that, and you guys are, working consecutive matches, this is going to sound kind of weird, but I think you might get it. Does it get more fun the more comfortable you get with somebody in the ring?
It gets more violent.
Gets more violent?
The more comfortable you get with somebody, the more you know they can take.
So you can start pushing those limits a little bit more, right?
I don't leave a match with Cleveland Biggs without some kind of war wounds, and I make sure he doesn't leave a match without some war wounds either. At the end of the day, we're out there with one goal in mind, and that's to bring home the Breakout Championship. I had a really good chance of winning it from Isaiah Zane. Isaiah and I were both down. Cleveland cashed in his voltage tag, which is basically like a Money in the Bank, and he took advantage of that. This Breakout Championship is a championship I've been after for about 6 months now, and Cleveland took advantage of it. And now I'm going after Cleveland, but as much as we've worked together and we've worked in the ring, we have an agreement that we both have the same goal, and both of us will continue fighting for it until there's not breath in our body, until our bones can no longer take it. And I'm having fun doing it. It is fun because as much as it sucks not having that title on me, I love having something to chase. I love having something to go after, and he's giving me that. And at the end of a match, when my eyes black and blue and he can't feel his jaw, I know we also gave the crowd exactly what they were looking for.
How fulfilling is it to not you've come through the curtain the first time, you've worked your match, now you go back through the curtain again and you kind of get to breathe that sigh of relief, and you knocked it out of the park, you just blew the roof off, whatever analogy you choose to use for it. What's it like knowing you just did that? Because I've seen some slobber knockers, and then I've watched you, and then you're like, holy shit, like these guys could have been, like that could have been an AEW match. You know what I mean? Like you go in there and just work a solid match. You knocked a home run. What's that feel like?
You ever been to a brothel?
Can't say that I have.
Check it out. That's the equivalent. It's so fulfilling. It's arousing when you can hear the bell ring, hear the crowd, and realize I did my job. I did what I'm supposed to do. These people either love me or hate me the way that I need them to, and know that I put it all on the line in this ring. I equate it to Charlotte Flair. Again, I keep on going back to her.
She's a good one to go back to, though.
End of this WrestleMania, she sat there on with her back to the apron, smiling. I feel like she may have been possibly feeling that as well, because she knew she gave it her all. Even in a defeat, she busted her ass, and it's an awesome feeling, because even if you lose, it's such a confidence booster that you can do this. Because there's times throughout my career, and I'm sure everybody's felt it, like you think, why am I doing this? Can I do this? And then when you're proven I can, and I'll continue to do so, man, nothing feels better than that.
All right, Cole. Here it comes, man. This is everybody's favorite part of the episode. I always end them the same way every time. 5 random questions. I've got yours queued up. One of yours has to do with wrestling. The other 4 don't. You ready?
Yep.
All right, number 1. What's the one move you hate taking the most?
I hate that I hate taking the most.
So
Oof.
when you know you're working somebody and you're like you're gonna have to take this particular bump, what's that one move where you're like, fuck, I don't want to have to do that tonight?
I honestly hate taking suplexes.
Yeah.
And the reason why is not too many people can give me a suplex, and those that can, um, I don't know, man. Just and it's not they're unsafe. It's just being upside down.
That head over feet thing.
Yeah. It goes along with my fear of heights. Every time I land on the mat, though, I take a breath of like a deep breath, like, all right, I made it. But that is one move that I absolutely hate taking, but it seems like I take them a lot these days. So as my opponents get bigger, so do the moves.
Question number 2. What's your favorite movie?
Days of Thunder.
It's a fantastic pick. Are you a Tom Cruise guy, like Top Gun and other stuff
I'm
too?
a NASCAR guy.
Oh,
I'm a
NASCAR guy. Okay, who's your racer
Yeah.
then? Like, who's your driver?
I grew up an Earnhardt fan, senior, junior. I was a diehard fan. In life, if a NASCAR race was rained out on Sunday, I was skipping school on Monday.
So you can watch it.
Yeah, my Sundays and Mondays were my favorite days. Sundays was racing, Monday was wrestling. Now I'm more of a casual viewer. There's a few different guys I cheer for, but yeah, I was definitely an Earnhardt fan.
I got to go to Bristol to see UT play West Virginia a few years back. It was cool to see a
Awesome
football
track.
game in that track, so that was fun. Question number 3 is a question that comes from Matt the Duelist in the chat. Do you think a hot dog's a sandwich?
No,
Hot dog's not a sandwich.
nope,
He'll appreciate that. All right.
no.
Question number 4. What was the last TV show you binge watched?
Watching it now, it's Night Agent on Netflix.
Okay. I've seen it on the list. Haven't started it yet.
It's a good one. Side note, though, the last long one that I completely binge watched, all 11 seasons, was Cheers.
That is like X-Files. For some reason, like I feel like I need to watch it, but I've never taken the time to finish it.
It has old 80s, 90s humor that would never pass today.
That good old gonna get you canceled if somebody laughed out loud at it.
Yep.
All right, number 5. Who is your all-time favorite musical artist?
Limp Bizkit or Eminem, they go hand in hand.
Eminem's always at the top of my Spotify roundup at the end of the year. One of my favorite hip-hop artists of all time.
Growing up in a broken home, and I could really relate to a lot of his music. He was able to relate. He rapped about. I was able to relate to it so well. Limp Bizkit, just that hot dog flavored water album, being 10, 11 years old when that came out, having my CD player in my jacket, my all-star jacket with the front pocket, riding my bike around upstate New York in the snow, blaring that shit, blaring My Way, blaring Boiler, blaring Rolling. Like, that was just a hot album. But those are my 2 favorite artists.
All right, cool. This is everybody's favorite part of the episode. I don't have to say anything. I just sit here. Plug your stuff. Tell everybody where to find you, your merch, any matches you've got coming up, anything you want to put over, man. This is your time to do it.
We'll start with shows. This past Sunday, we just did Toontown Turmoil in Jacksonville, Florida. It was the first time I've wrestled in Jacksonville since April of 22. Thunder Rosa says that's a good thing. So I'm happy about that. If you're in the Jacksonville area, you didn't get to catch me this weekend. Once again, I am in Jacksonville. Back-to-back weekends. I make my debut with the USWA, United States Wrestling Alliance. I am super excited. If you want more information on that, feel free to DM me. I've posted the flyer. I will post it again throughout the week. I am pumped for that Saturday. Myself and my arch nemesis, who now has become a tag team partner of mine, Mike Anthony, will be taking on the Russell Twins. DRT, I have so much respect for them, and I cannot wait to share the ring with them. And then we turn around Sunday, the next day, and we're heading to Orlando, Florida. Actually, Deltona, Florida, to be exact, right outside Orlando. EGCW. You can find myself in action as well. Again, I'll be sharing that flyer. WrestleFest 3. I'm pumped for that. This will be my second time with EGCW. Absolutely love that promotion as well. We have a lot of fun out there. It's some hard-hitting stuff. It gets a bit extreme as well. That's what actually the E stands for. So you get a little bit of everything out there. You get some traditional wrestling. You might get a little bit of blood. So that's the next two shows that are coming up that I know for sure that I'm booked on. It's got some things stewing up in May. I'm taking a couple weeks off in May, a little bit of vacation coming up. So not pushing too much right now. Those are the two shows that if you want to see me, you come to those shows. Again, April 22nd, Jacksonville, Florida, USWA. You're not going to get any better in the state of Florida and in Jacksonville, Florida than USWA. Also, the Pope's going to be there. Come see the Pope. The dude's like absolutely ripped still. Hell of a guy. And then EGCW on Saturday. When it comes to the handles, Twitter, Cole Bohannon 38, as well as Cole Bohannon on Facebook. And of course, Pro Wrestling Tees, prowrestlingtees.com/Cole Bohannon. Always rocking the CB Attitude shirts. Got a few of them up there. And yeah, also I'm an open book. Anybody that wants to message me, anybody wants to talk to me, I'm always open to it. Always open to answer questions and constructive questions. One thing I've learned to do is ignore the trolls, ignore the idiots. That's, Twitter is just infested with it, even worse than Facebook. Learn to ignore it. But if you got some constructive stuff you want to talk about, you want to talk about some pro wrestling, you want to talk about some NASCAR, you want to talk about Super Mario Brothers movie, absolutely loved it. I'm down to talk about it. But yeah, that's about it.
Cole, it's been a hell of a conversation, brother. I appreciate you stopping by and chatting about some wrestling with me, man.
I appreciate you having me here, and I'll wrap this up the same way I wrap up everything other than Busted Open. I appreciate you having me. You know I'm going to do things the only way I know how to do, and that's with CB attitude. And just remember, just because it's curable doesn't mean it's cool.
For Cole Bohannon, I am the Will Gray. Thanks for stopping by and listening, my people.